The crimson sky of Vexara cast long shadows across the crystalline meeting chamber, its twin suns creating an otherworldly dance of light that Ambassador Kai Thorne still hadn't grown accustomed to after 3 months on this alien world. He adjusted his formal diplomatic robes, trying to ignore the nervous energy radiating from his security detail as they awaited their Zaranai counterparts. "Remember," his aide, Lieutenant Dex, whispered, "they value directness above all else. No flowery language, no empty pleasantries." Kai nodded, though he'd memorized every cultural briefing the Earth Diplomatic Corps had provided. The Zaranai were legendary warriors, their empire spanning 12 star systems, their presence crucial to maintaining the fragile peace in this sector of the galaxy. This cultural exchange could make or break humanity's position among the stars. The chamber doors irised open with a soft chime, and Kai's breath caught in his throat despite his diplomatic training. Commander Rhea strode in, her silver-purple skin gleaming like liquid mercury, red hair flowing like flames behind her. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her presence commanding immediate attention from every human in the room. Behind her followed 2 other Zaranai, but Kai found himself unable to look away from their leader. The formal greetings were exchanged with practiced precision, gifts presented and accepted, cultural statements read aloud. Throughout it all, Rhea's violet eyes remained fixed on Kai with an intensity that made his skin prickle. When the formal proceedings concluded and the chamber began to empty, she held up a hand. "Ambassador Thorne, remain." Her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience, but there was something else there, curiosity, perhaps even challenge. Kai dismissed his nervous security team with a gesture, noting how reluctantly they left him alone with the intimidating warrior. Rhea circled him slowly, her movements predatory yet somehow not threatening. Up close, Kai could see the intricate silver tattoos that covered her arms, traditional marks of her military achievements. When she finally stopped before him, they stood close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her body. "Your diplomatic briefings," she said, her accented voice low and melodious. "Did they explain everything about my people?" "I believe so, Commander. We've studied your culture extensively." "No," she cut him off, stepping closer. "They didn't. There are truths about the Zaranai that we share only when necessary." Kai's heart rate quickened. In all his training, no one had mentioned secret cultural practices. "I'm eager to learn, Commander." A smile curved her lips, sharp and predatory. "Are you? Then tell me, Ambassador Kai Thorne of Earth, do you find me attractive?" Heat rushed to Kai's face. Every diplomatic instinct screamed that this was a trap, yet something in her unwavering gaze demanded honesty. That's not a question typically asked in diplomatic." "I did not ask about your protocols." Her voice hardened. "I asked what you feel. Do you desire me? Do you imagine what it would be like to touch my skin, to know me beyond these formal exchanges?" The chamber suddenly felt too hot, too small. Kai knew he should deflect, should find a polite way to redirect this dangerous conversation. But something in her expression, raw honesty mixed with vulnerability, made him pause. He thought of all the careful lies and half-truths that comprised his profession, all the masks he wore daily. "Yes," he said, the word emerging before he could stop it. "God help me, yes." Rhea's eyes widened, surprise replacing the predatory gleam. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Then her expression shifted to something he couldn't quite identify: triumph, relief, fear. "You should not have answered truthfully," she whispered, though her tone suggested she was glad he had. "Why?" Kai asked, though part of him suspected he already knew. She lifted her hand, hovering just inches from his cheek. "Because among my people, when a warrior asks that question and receives an honest answer, it begins the Nexus ritual, and once begun, it cannot be undone." What does that mean?" Rhea's fingers finally made contact with his skin, sending electricity through his entire body. "It means, Ambassador, that your fate is now bound to mine. In 3 days, as our suns align, we will either complete the ritual or condemn both our peoples to war." Kai stared at her, the implications crashing over him like a tidal wave. His one moment of honesty had just altered the course of 2 civilizations. "I don't understand," he breathed. "You will," Rhea said softly, her thumb tracing his jawline. "And Kai, I am glad you told the truth." The emergency session of the Earth-Zaranai Joint Council convened before the larger sun had set. the tension so thick it seemed to vibrate in the air itself. Kai sat at the polished obsidian table, acutely aware of every accusing glare from his own delegation, while Rhea maintained a stoic expression beside him, her red hair like fire against the stark conference room walls. Ambassador Thorne, Director Vance, the head of Earth's diplomatic mission, began with barely contained fury. Would you care to explain why 3 centuries of peaceful relations now hang by a thread because you couldn't maintain professional boundaries? Before Kai could respond, Rhea's voice cut through the tension. The fault is not with your ambassador, Director. I initiated the truth-binding ritual. By our laws, he had no choice but to answer honestly. Your laws? Vance's voice dripped incredulity. Since when do your personal desires supersede diplomatic protocol? A murmur ran through the Zaranai present, a sound Kai had learned meant dangerous offense. Elder Karn, Rhea's superior, stepped forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the entire human delegation. The truth-binding is not personal desire, he intoned, his voice like grinding stone. It is sacred law, invoked only when a warrior must test another's honor. Commander Rhea suspected your ambassador had been showing false courtesy, what you humans call diplomatic necessity. She needed to know if Earth's intentions toward our alliance were genuine. Kai felt his stomach drop. But I do have genuine intentions to maintain peace. Not political intentions, Rhea interrupted gently, though her eyes held an apology. Personal truth. My people believe that political truth springs from personal truth. If you could not be honest about something as basic as attraction, how could we trust you with our world's futures? So you tested him, Vance said flatly, and now? Elder Karn's expression grew grave. Now, the ritual must be completed. In 3 days, when both our suns reach zenith, Ambassador Thorne and Commander Rhea must either complete the truth bond through the sacred joining, or the contract between our peoples is forfeit. The humans erupted in voices of protest, but Kai barely heard them. He was watching Rhea, seeing the way her jaw tightened, the subtle tremor in her hands. This wasn't what she had wanted either. There's more, she said quietly, silencing the room. The sacred joining isn't merely ceremonial. It creates a genuine bond, telepathic, emotional, spiritual. Once completed, Kai and I will share thoughts and feelings across any distance. We will know each other's truths always. And if we refuse? Kai asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. War, Elder Karn stated simply. Your Earth's deception, for that is how refusal would be interpreted, would be considered an act of aggression against the Zaranai Confederacy. The room fell silent. Kai looked at his fellow humans, their pale faces, their fear barely concealed behind diplomatic masks. Then he looked at Rhea, really looked at her. In her violet eyes, he saw the weight she carried, the responsibility she hadn't asked for. May I speak with Commander Rhea privately? He asked. Elder Karn nodded slowly. You have until the smaller sun rises tomorrow. Use the time wisely. As the room cleared, murmurs of outrage and strategy following the delegates, Kai and Rhea remained seated. When they were finally alone, she spoke first. I am sorry, she said, her formal composure cracking. I hoped you would lie, that you would choose the safe diplomatic answer, and I could report to our council that your people truly were as deceptive as some claimed. You wanted me to lie. Yes, no, she rubbed her temples, a curiously human gesture. I wanted to hate your kind, to find reason to maintain our warrior traditions without alliance, but when you spoke truthfully, she looked at him, vulnerability replacing command for the first time. When you admitted desire despite the risk, I knew you were different, braver than I had credited your species. Kai leaned back, trying to process everything. So now we're both trapped by your test. Not trapped, Rhea corrected. Bound by truth. There is honor in that. She hesitated, then reached across the table, not quite touching his hand. I will complete the ritual if you are willing. I will not let our peoples go to war because of my actions. And after, when we're bonded, what happens to us? We become something new, she said simply. Neither fully human nor fully Zaranai, but a bridge between worlds. It has been done before, though rarely. The last truth bond was formed 3 centuries ago. Did it work, that last bond? Rhea smiled, the expression transforming her severe features into something almost ethereal. Those bonded ones founded the first interspecies colony. Their descendants still serve as mediators between our peoples. Kai studied her, this warrior who had tested him, trapped him, and now offered him a choice that was no choice at all. But something stirred in him, not just the physical attraction he'd admitted to, but curiosity, respect, even the beginnings of something deeper. "I need to know one thing," he said finally. "Ask. Is this just duty for you, or was there truth in your test too?" Ria's eyes widened slightly, a flush darkening her silver skin. "You ask me to violate my own ritual. I ask you for the same honesty you demanded of me." For a long moment she was silent. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "When I watch you navigate our customs with such care, when you show respect even to those who intimidate your kind, when you speak of your earth with such passion," she looked away, "I had not expected to admire you." "That's not the same as desire, Ria." She met his eyes again, and this time the intensity was different, not predatory, but searching. "When I am near you, my warrior discipline wavers. When you look at me with those honest human eyes, I forget the tactical advantages of maintaining distance. And when you admitted your desire despite everything at stake." She paused. "I wanted to kiss you. There. Is that truth enough?" The confession hung between them, raw and dangerous as any weapon. Kai felt his own truth rising to meet hers, complicated and unexpected and terrifying. "3 days," he said softly. "3 days," she agreed. They sat in the dimming light, two beings from different worlds, bound by honesty into something neither had planned but both might choose. Outside, the twin suns continued their ancient dance, marking the time until their fates would be sealed. The private chambers assigned to Kai had been modified to accommodate both human and Zaranai needs: higher ceilings, reinforced furniture, and a temperature control system that pleased neither species perfectly. Ria paced the main room like a caged predator, her warrior bearing at odds with the uncertainty in her eyes. "My people practice the truth bond in isolation," she explained, her formal tone unable to mask the nervousness beneath. "No advisors, no protocols, just two beings learning to see beyond surface differences." Kai watched her circuit the room, noting how she avoided the seating areas designed for close proximity. "And what exactly does this learning involve?" She stopped packing, turning to face him with that direct Zaranai gaze that still made his pulse quicken. "Everything and nothing. We share stories, traditions, fears. We learn the texture of each other's truths." She hesitated. "And yes, there is physical intimacy, but not until the final day." "Why wait?" "Because," she moved closer, her presence magnetic despite her obvious restraint, "the sacred joining is not about mere physical union. It is about choosing to become vulnerable with someone who was once a stranger. The waiting teaches patience, builds trust." "Your people must be very wise," Kai commented, settling himself on one of the low couches. "Or very cruel." A laugh escaped her, bright and unexpected. "Often both." She joined him, maintaining a careful distance. "Tell me about your name, Kai Thorn. Does it hold meaning?" "Nothing profound. Kai means warrior in some Earth languages, which my military father appreciated. Thorn is just an old family name." He studied her profile. "What about Ria?" "Named for a moon goddess of one of our sister planets. My mother hoped I would be gentle like moonlight." She gestured to her warrior's build, the scars barely visible on her silver skin. She was disappointed. "I don't think so," Kai said softly. "There's moonlight in you. I see it when you think no one's looking." She turned to him, surprise and something deeper flickering across her features. "You are not what I expected, Kai Thorn." "What did you expect?" "A diplomat, smooth words hiding calculated thoughts. Someone who would see me as an asset or a threat, never as—" She trailed off, her cheeks darkening. "As a person, as a woman. As someone with doubts and dreams beyond duty." She drew her knees up, a position that made her seem younger, less imposing. "Do you know what I dreamed of before becoming a warrior?" "Tell me." "Music," she said almost shyly. "My people have instruments that produce sounds beyond human hearing range. I wanted to compose symphonies that would unite our scattered colonies." She glanced at him. "Foolish, perhaps." "Beautiful," Kai corrected. "Do you still compose?" "Sometimes, in private." She was quiet for a moment. "What did you dream of before becoming Earth's voice among the stars?" Kai grinned. "I wanted to be a chef. Specifically, I wanted to open a fusion restaurant that served food from every planet in the known systems." Ria blinked, then laughed, a full, genuine sound that transformed her entire appearance. "Truly." Truly, I spent my youth collecting recipes, learning techniques. I can still prepare a mean Andromeden spice blend. He shifted closer, drawn by her laughter. Maybe someday I'll cook for you. I would like that, she said simply, and the sincerity in her voice made his chest tighten. They talked as the larger sun set, sharing stories of childhood, of first loves and deepest fears. Kai learned that Rhea had nearly been exiled for refusing to execute a prisoner of war. She discovered that he'd once spent 3 months learning an extinct Earth language just to read poetry in its original form. There's something I need to tell you, Rhea said as the stars became visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling. About the bond itself. I'm listening. It's not just emotional or mental connection, the physical aspects. They become amplified. When we touch, we'll feel not just our own sensations, but echoes of each other's. She paused, a rare show of embarrassment. When we join, it will be unlike anything either of us has experienced. Is it uncomfortable, the sharing? No, she said quietly. From what I'm told, it's transcendent, like finding a missing part of yourself you never knew was lost. Their eyes met, and Kai felt the weight of what they were approaching. Without thinking, he reached out, stopping just short of her hand. May I? She nodded silently. When their fingers touched, both startled at the jolt of awareness, not quite the bond yet, but a preview of what was to come. Kai could almost sense her pulse, the quick intake of her breath. Rhea, he whispered. Kai, her voice was equally soft. I should tell you. Yesterday, when you admitted your desire, I felt something I've never experienced. What? Fear, not of battle or death, but of wanting something I might not be worthy of. She laced her fingers with his. And hope, dangerous hope. Hope for what? That maybe this arranged bond could become something real, something chosen rather than forced. She moved closer, her presence enveloping him. Is that foolish? Instead of answering, Kai lifted his free hand to cup her face, marveling at the smoothness of her silver skin. I once thought different species could only work together out of necessity, but these past 3 months watching your people, seeing your dedication to something greater than yourself. He traced her cheekbone with his thumb. And now, these past hours with you. What? She prompted, her breath warm against his skin. I think some things transcend species. Some connections are just inevitable. Rhea closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with new resolve. Show me, she whispered. Show me what human tenderness feels like. Kai leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to retreat. When their lips met, it was gentle, a question rather than a demand. Rhea responded with a soft sigh, her hand coming up to tangle in his hair. The kiss deepened naturally, and Kai marveled at how perfectly they fit together despite their physical differences. When they finally separated, both were breathing heavily. Rhea's eyes held a new warmth, and color high in her cheeks made her skin shimmer like polished metal. That, she said unsteadily, was not in any of my cultural briefings. Kai laughed, resting his forehead against hers. Mine either. They sat in comfortable silence, hands still linked as the stars wheeled overhead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions about their growing bond. But tonight they had found something unexpected, not just desire or duty, but the beginning of genuine understanding between worlds. 2 more days, Rhea murmured. 2 more days, Kai agreed, pressing a kiss to her temple. And I find myself looking forward to them. She smiled against his shoulder. So do I, my unexpected chef diplomat, so do I. The morning of the second day dawned with chaos. Kai woke to urgent pounding on his chamber doors, his peaceful sleep beside Rhea shattered by the sound of his aide's voice shouting through the comm system. Ambassador, sir, we have a situation. Rhea was already on her feet, her warrior reflexes faster than his. What is it? She called out in universal standard. Commander Rhea, the Coalition of Traditional Worlds has issued an ultimatum, came Dex's strained voice. They're threatening military action if the ritual proceeds, and sir, there's been an incident. Kai and Rhea exchanged glances, the easy intimacy of the previous night replaced by immediate alert. They dressed quickly, Rhea in her formal warrior regalia, Kai in his diplomatic uniform. When they opened the doors, Dex's pale face greeted them. 3 Zaranai dissidents attempted to assassinate Elder Karn. They were stopped, but barely. They claim the truth bond will weaken the warrior bloodline, make your people soft. My people, Rhea corrected coldly, will not be dictated to by cowards who fear change. but Kai noticed the tremor in her hands as she activated her personal communicator. Elder Karn, respond. This is Commander Rhea. The silence stretched too long. Finally, a weak voice came through. Rhea, child. The dissidents have support, more than we knew. Even now, ships gather at the system's edge. Kai felt his stomach plummet. Armed ships. Both sides, Dex confirmed grimly. 3 human battlecruisers arrived this morning. Officially, they're here to observe and protect our interests. Unofficially. Unofficially, they're prepared to extract me and all human personnel if this goes badly, Kai finished. He looked at Rhea, seeing his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. Their personal bond was about to become a galactic incident. I need to speak with my council, Rhea said tightly. And you need to. No, Kai interrupted. We need to do this together. That's the whole point, isn't it? To show our peoples that unity is possible. Rhea studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Together, then? She straightened every inch the commander. But understand this, if violence erupts, I will protect my people, even from yours if necessary. As I will protect mine, Kai replied evenly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The Joint Council Chamber was a war room disguised as a diplomatic space. Representatives from 6 human worlds occupied one side, while Zaranai from a dozen colonies filled the other. The tension was so thick it seemed to have physical weight. Elder Karn, his arm in a medical sling but his voice strong, addressed the assembly. The truth bond has sparked dissent we did not anticipate. Many question whether our warriors should bind with those they might one day face in battle. Might, Director Vance shot back. Your dissidents have made their position clear. They're gathering ships, preparing for war. My government cannot allow. Your government, Rhea interrupted, stepping forward with lethal grace, will show respect when addressing our elders, or you will address them through me. And I promise you, Director, that conversation will be far less pleasant. Is that a threat, Commander? It is a cultural education, Kai interjected smoothly, moving to stand beside Rhea. And it's exactly why this bond is necessary. We don't understand each other well enough, and that lack of understanding breeds fear. Fear breeds conflict. A murmur ran through both sides of the chamber. General Torres, head of the human military delegation, leaned forward. With respect, Ambassador, are you suggesting we risk open war for a personal relationship? I'm suggesting, Kai said, his voice carrying easily in the charged silence, that this bond represents everything our alliance should be. Difficult, yes. Risky, absolutely. But built on fundamental truth rather than diplomatic convenience. Rhea stepped closer, her presence supporting his words. The Challenger ships gathering at our borders do not represent the majority of our people. They are vocal, and they are violent, but they are not the future. And if they attack, Director Vance challenged. Then they attack, Elder Karn stated grimly, and they will be dealt with by those who believe in the bond, but that is not the question before us. He gestured to Kai and Rhea. The question is whether we have the courage to continue what they have begun. A young Zaranai warrior stood in the back, her blue skin marked with the traditional scars of completed military service. Commander Rhea, I have followed you into battle. I have seen your wisdom in combat and your honor in victory. If you say this bond gives strength to our alliance, then it does. Stand down, Warrior Vex, Rhea commanded gently. This must be a choice of the Council's, not personal loyalty. No, Kai said suddenly, an idea forming. Maybe that's exactly wrong. Maybe this should be about personal choice. He turned to address the room. The truth bond was meant to test honesty, to prove that genuine connection could bridge our differences, but we've made it political, turned it into a treaty obligation. What are you proposing? Vance asked, suspicion clear in his voice. Kai looked at Rhea, seeking permission with his eyes. When she nodded slightly, he continued. Let's make it truly voluntary. No political consequences, no threat of war, no forced alliance. Just 2 people choosing to bind their futures because they believe in something greater than fear. You would risk the peace, General Torres demanded. I would preserve it, Kai replied. The right way, by showing that our peoples can choose understanding over suspicion, partnership over domination. He held Rhea's gaze. If she'll have me. The chamber erupted in voices, some supportive, others outraged, many confused. But Rhea never looked away from Kai. In the chaos, she stepped closer, speaking just for him. You would do this without guarantees, without political protection. I would do this because it's right, he said quietly. And because somewhere between your challenge and my answer, I started to fall for you. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Her eyes widened, then softened. You speak truth again, human. Always with you. Elder Karn's voice cut through the uproar. Silence! When the room quieted, he looked at Kai and Rhea with something like approval. You propose to make the truth bond a matter of personal choice rather than political necessity. Yes, they answered together. And you understand this changes everything, that you must face whatever comes, dissidents, skeptics, or war, with no guarantee of support. We understand, Rhea said firmly. The elder studied them for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then let it be so. Council will debate war and peace on their own merits. You two will complete or abandon your bond as your hearts dictate. As the assembly began to disperse into heated strategy groups, Rhea caught Kai's arm. You realize what you've done. Possibly destroyed my career and started a war. She smiled, fierce and beautiful. Possibly shown our peoples a better path. Her expression grew serious. Are you certain, Kai, without political protection if this goes badly? If this goes badly, he said, taking her hands, I can't think of anyone I'd rather face it with. Foolish human, she murmured, but her eyes shone with warmth. I am beginning to think I might love you. Only beginning, he teased. The bond isn't complete yet, she reminded him. One more day to be certain. I'm already certain, he squeezed her hands. The question is, are you? Rhea's smile turned predatory again, but there was softness beneath. Challenge accepted, Ambassador. Let's see if you still feel that way when you're sharing my warrior's dreams. As they left the chaos of the council behind, Kai realized he wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever came, war, peace, or something entirely new, they would face it together, bound not by obligation but by choice. Tomorrow would bring the final ritual, the sacred joining that would either create something unprecedented between their worlds or serve as a catalyst for conflict. But tonight, they had something more precious than diplomatic treaties or military alliances. They had each other and the courage to choose love over fear. The sacred joining ground lay at the heart of the Zaranai capital, a circular platform of crystalline stone that hummed with energy when the twin suns reached zenith. Ancient runes were carved around its perimeter, glowing faintly in the planetary dusk. Kai stood at the western entrance, his simple white ceremonial robes a stark contrast to the ornate military dress of both human and Zaranai guards stationed around the perimeter. In the distance, ships still gathered, dissidents on one side, loyalists on the other, with three neutral systems mediating the tense standoff. But here, in this ancient space, the galaxy's politics felt very far away. You are early, Rhea's voice came from behind him. He turned to find her approaching, and his breath caught. Instead of her military armor, she wore traditional bonding garments, flowing fabric that seemed woven from starlight itself, silver and red threads catching the dying light. Her hair fell loose past her shoulders, moving like liquid fire. I wanted time to think, he admitted. Last chance to run, you know. She smiled, that fierce expression he'd grown to love. For both of us. She moved to stand beside him, looking out over the platform. 3 hours ago, Elder Karn received intel that the dissident fleet will attack regardless of our choice. They see this as the perfect moment to strike, while both our peoples are distracted. And the human battle cruisers will defend what they came to protect, she turned to him. Which means in less than an hour, we'll be in the middle of the very war we tried to prevent. Unless we show them something worth preservation rather than destruction, she took his hand. Are you ready? Before he could answer, alarms began sounding across the city. The attack was beginning early. Defensive positions, someone shouted in the distance. Rhea's warrior instincts flared, her body tensing for combat, but Kai held her hand firmly. No, he said simply. Kai, our peoples. Trust me, he looked into her violet eyes. You challenged me to truth, let me show you what I learned. Without waiting for permission, Kai led her onto the sacred platform. Energy crackled around them as their feet touched the ancient stone, responding to their presence even though the suns hadn't reached the proper alignment. What are you doing? Rhea demanded even as she followed. Showing them that some things transcend war. He stopped at the center of the platform, pulling her to face him. The ritual doesn't need perfect conditions, does it? It needs perfect truth. Overhead, the first exchange of fire painted the sky in brilliant colors. But on the platform, something else was happening. The ancient runes blazed to life, responding to their combined presence with intensity that shouldn't have been possible. Kai, this is not... Rhea, he interrupted, dropping to one knee in a gesture that belonged to no culture but felt right. I'm choosing you. Not because I have to, not because our worlds demand it, but because somewhere between your impossible question and this impossible moment, I fell in love with you. Truth bond me. Choose me back. Let them fight over shadows while we create something real. She stared down at him, tears gathering in her eyes, an unprecedented show of emotion for a Zaranai warrior. You foolish, beautiful human, she whispered. Stand up. As he rose, she took both his hands. The energy around them intensified, forming a visible barrier that glowed like a second sun. Both armies paused in their exchange, weapons lowering as all eyes turned to the platform. I have lived by duty my entire life, Rhea declared, her voice carrying impossibly far. I tested you, Kai Thorn, expecting to find deception. Instead, I found courage. I expected to prove our species incompatible. Instead, I learned compatibility isn't about similarity. It's about choosing to bridge differences with honesty. The barrier around them pulsed, drawing energy from the planet itself. Kai could feel Rhea's emotions as if they were his own, her fear, her hope, her growing love. I choose truth, she continued, louder now. I choose the risk of vulnerability over the safety of isolation. I choose partnership over domination, understanding over fear. She looked directly into his eyes. I choose you, Kai Thorn, in war and peace, in truth and doubt, until our lights join the stars themselves. Energy exploded around them, not destructive, but transformative. Kai felt his consciousness expand, touching Rhea's mind with infinite gentleness even as their physical bond ignited with intensity that redefined everything he thought he knew about intimacy. The change was immediate and profound. Their thoughts intertwined, their emotions harmonized, their physical sensation doubled and amplified. When Rhea moved closer, Kai felt his own heartbeat double. No, realized with wonder it was both their hearts, beating in perfect synchronization. Around them, the battle had ceased entirely. Both sides stood transfixed as the barrier of light grew, encompassing not just the platform, but beginning to spread outward. Through their bond, Kai and Rhea understood what was happening. They had become a living demonstration of what was possible between their peoples. Our turn, Rhea whispered, her voice now echoing in his mind as well as his ears. Show them human love. Without hesitation, Kai pulled her close, their kiss a declaration of war, not against each other's peoples, but against the fear and mistrust that had kept their worlds apart. Through their bond, every human and Zaranai present felt an echo of their connection, not invasive, but illuminating. For just a moment, ancient enemies felt what it was like to understand rather than fear. The light barrier pulsed one final time, then shattered into millions of harmless sparks that rained down on both armies like benediction. In the aftermath, as Kai and Rhea stood in the center of the now-quiet platform, Elder Karn's voice carried across the space. Behold the first truth bond in 3 centuries. Let none say it cannot be done. The dissident commander stepped forward, laying down his weapon. If this is possible, he said slowly, then perhaps we have been wrong to fear. Director Vance approached from the human side, his diplomatic mask finally showing genuine emotion. I owe you both an apology, he said simply, and an explanation to our councils about what genuine alliance looks like. As representatives from both sides began moving toward the platform, Kai felt Rhea's contentment flow through their bond like warm honey. Worth it? She asked silently. Every moment, he replied. Though I should warn you, you're stuck with me now, through their thoughts and across any distance. Stuck with a chef diplomat who writes poetry and challenges warriors to be truthful, she laughed, the sound carrying both in the air and in his mind. I believe I can endure such hardship. 3 months later, the Vexara peace accords would be signed on this same platform, with Kai and Rhea serving as living proof that understanding between species wasn't just possible, but transformative. Their bond became a template, not for forced unity, but for chosen partnership between willing hearts. 5 years later, standing in their shared kitchen aboard the first truly integrated human Zaranai colony ship, Kai would prepare his fusion cuisine for the crew while Rhea composed symphonies that could be heard by both their species. Through their bond, they would share each other's creations, each other's dreams, each other's fears and triumphs. But in this moment, as the twin suns finally aligned overhead and the last echoes of conflict faded into promise, they simply held each other, two beings who had dared to choose truth over fear, love over duty, and in doing so had created a bridge between worlds that could never be destroyed. Through their bond, they felt the vast future stretching ahead, complicated, challenging, but no longer impossible. Together, they had proven that sometimes the greatest diplomatic victory comes not from negotiation tables or military might, but from two hearts brave enough to tell the truth. And in that truth, they had found everything: